Hi, welcome to Book Hooks. I'm Curren McLean, the director at the beautiful Azle Memorial Library in Azle, Texas, and I've got some great nonfiction to share with you today. Now, the first book I want to talk about is very timely. You might know that the movie Unbroken comes out Christmas Day 2014. And even if you didn't know, if you hear the word Unbroken, you probably think, where have I heard that before? And it's because it's actually the name of a book by Laura Hillenbrand based on the life of Louis Zamperini. And Louis Zamperini, for those of you who haven't read this book, which has been on every bestseller list ever, is a man who started off with kind of a rebellious childhood. He found that he was actually a really good athlete, so he kind of improved his life a little, became an athlete, actually went to the Olympics in the 1940s in Berlin, won gold, came back home, was an Olympic hero, and then World War II started and he was drafted. And that's where his life took a big turn. At one point he was stranded on a life raft for 40-something days. He managed to miraculously survive, but then he was captured by the Japanese and put in a POW camp for 2 years. And he was tortured pretty badly in the POW camp. The fact that he survived the POW camp is an absolute miracle. He basically said the only reason he survived mentally was just his will of spirit. It messed him up a lot, but he managed to find forgiveness, and when he came back home, he got married. He lived a very fulfilling life, and he attributes the fact that he could live a fulfilling life after all of that torture to his ability to forgive, to have hope, and to put faith in mankind. And so he's come out with a new book, and it's called Don't Give Up, Don't Give In, Lessons from an Extraordinary Life. And this book was just released. It actually was completed 2 days before Louis Zamperini passed away. So it is complete. It's in his own words. He did have a co-author, but this is his way of sharing with the world, not the story that's already been told in Unbroken. And he actually wrote a book about the part of his life where he was captured called Devil at My Heels. This book talks about his life after that. It talks about his ability to forgive and how it set him free. He does have a big faith in God. But he became a motivational speaker. He speaks to children, to other groups. He talks about being prepared in life. He's a big proponent of survivalism. And he just talks about how you should really have faith in your fellow mankind because it will change your life. This almost reads like a self-help book. There are short little chapters where he kind of picks a little topic and talks about how it relates to his life. It's not so much biographical, just more kind of inspirational. So if you're looking for a very uplifting read from a man who has really been able to turn his life around from something that could have just gone horribly wrong and been terrible to something that's just very fulfilling, this is a fabulous read, so I highly recommend it. And if you haven't read Unbroken, I definitely recommend you read that first so you know what this man went through to have this kind of life spirit. So the next book, something else that's been in the news lately. President Obama just announced that we, as the United States, are going to be starting diplomatic relations with Cuba. So a lot of us probably don't know much about Cuba because we've just been so separated from them for so many years. So there's a great new cookbook out called The Cuban Table, a celebration of food, flavors, and history. It's by Ana Sofia Pelaz. And this book is very vivid. It's got wonderful photographs. We've got a recipe here. I don't know if you can see this. Called Pollo Frito a la Criolla. It looks fabulous. All of the recipes in this book have a lovely Spanish name that I can't pronounce. But they have a little history of where the recipe came from, how it was inspired, in Cuba. The ingredients are very approachable from things that you can probably find here in America very easily, and they just look lovely. There are great photographs of Cubans cooking and some of the fun ingredients that they have. So if you're looking for a good cookbook, but something that will kind of give you a glimpse into the cultural life of Cubans, this is a fabulous book to try. And we have it here at our library, but I'm sure you can get it on Amazon or somewhere else. And next I want to talk about a book that just came out called No Hero, The Evolution of a Navy SEAL by Mark Owen. Now, if you hear the name Mark Owen, you might be wondering, where have I heard that before? Well, this is the man who is part of Navy SEAL Team 6 who went and killed Osama bin Laden. His actual name is Matt Bissonnet, or Bissonnet. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But he was a part of that team that killed Osama bin Laden and then actually kind of revealed who he was. He's no longer a Navy SEAL. He actually wrote a book when he first came back and revealed who he was, called No Easy Day, about that actual mission to capture or kill Osama bin Laden. But since then, people have asked him, what's life like as a Navy SEAL? Because you really don't hear a lot about Navy SEALs. Their missions aren't really in the news. They're very covert. So he actually talks more about some of the other missions he's done. He starts the book off talking about what inspired him to join the Navy SEALs, why he chose to leave the Navy SEALs when he did. And then each chapter goes into a different mission. And it's not a chronological order of his life. It's just simply a chapter that starts off with the time, setting, date, and goes into the mission, and then the next chapter might be 2 years later. It's another complete mission, and he just gives a little vignette of it. It's a pretty quick read. You could probably get through it in 1 or 2 sittings. But if you want to learn more about Navy SEALs, military life, any of those topics, this would be a good book to read. And again, that's No Hero by Mark Owen. And finally, something else that's been in the news a lot lately, North Korea. Now, the book I want to mention is actually not brand new. It came out a few years ago. And this is Escape from Camp 14, One Man's Remarkable Odyssey from North Korea to Freedom in the West. And it was written by Blaine Harden, but it actually talks about a man named Shin Young-hook, who was in a prison camp in North Korea for literally his whole life. He was born in the prison camp, and he is one of the only, if maybe one of the few, but we don't know for sure, to escape a prison camp, escape from North Korea, and live to tell about it. He escaped when he was in his, I believe, early 20s, maybe 19, and he went to South Korea and America and back to South Korea. And in the book, he talks about what the prison camp was like, which, if you've read things about the Holocaust or other prison camps, this one is very different. It's still just as horrific, but you really have to read it to believe it. And then how he managed to escape and what his life has been like since then. And kind of on the flip side of Louis Zamperini, Shin Jong-kook has really had trouble assimilating back into everyday life and kind of becoming a citizen of the world. If you don't know anything about North Korea, they are very isolated. Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il, and now Kim Jong-un have really set their country into this own little world where they kind of mislead their citizens into believing things about the Western world that aren't true. I'm not trying to get into politics. So the citizens there have an extremely different life than anyone else in the entire world. If you want to learn more, not just about the prison camps, but about everyday life in North Korea, you can check out the book Nothing to Envy, Ordinary Lives in North Korea by Barbara Demick. I read this. It was the audiobook available digitally from Overdrive. Our library has it. Maybe your library will too. You can probably find the regular book or ebook as well. In Nothing to Envy, instead of talking about someone who defected from a prison camp, the author talks about defectors who lived regular lives in North Korea. They were from different social classes, from different age groups, different geographical areas of the country. And she talks about their life and then how they were able to defect. And most of them live in South Korea now. And really the only glimpse we have into North Korea, other than maybe propaganda that we hear in the news, is what the people who've defected have to tell us. So if you're looking more to learn about North Korea, I really highly recommend Escape from Camp 14 and Nothing to Envy. And before I end this session, I do want to mention we read Escape from Camp 14 in our Nonfiction Addiction Book Club. That's our nonfiction book club that we have here at the library. We would love for you to join us for our Nonfiction Book Club. So if you want to learn more, go to azllibrary.org, and we meet the first Thursday of every month, and we hope to see you there. And on behalf of Book Hooks and the Azel Library, thanks for watching.